a new format for today called Tiny Tableau Talks, because none of you want to come along and present. Or very few of you want to come along and present, and my lovely co-leaders of TAG try and get me to organise most of the speakers. So this is something that we're trialling today, because the talks are only going to be for about 5 minutes each, which is a little less confronting than thinking about perhaps a 20 or 30-minute discussion. And so we're keen to hear your feedback on whether or not you like the format, and be prepared, because I probably will come and tap you on the shoulder, although you might be lucky tonight. I don't know how long I'm staying at drinks tonight, so I might not be confronting you face to face and asking you for your email address, which I was known to do at the last hub, but very exciting. We'd also like to talk to you about, if we've got some time, about what else you'd like next year. We'll do our normal announcements, hiring and networking, and then we'll get to go for a few drinks as well. So first off, I'd like to thank my co-leaders. The Sydney Tug is actually quite time consuming to put things together. It may not seem like it, but there's a lot of work that goes on. So Margarita is so busy today that she can't actually join us, which is a shame, but kudos to Margarita, she does an amazing job behind the scenes. We've got Dave Tanner, who is our lead on setting up our Splash website, because it's a real pain in the you-know-what to actually get up and running. We've got Chris here today, who's been doing a great job with the Tableau Foundation and is going to be doing all the introductions as well. And finally, Mark. He's the most important man in the room. And Mark actually holds the credit card for drinks tonight. So we all love Mark. So thank you to my co-leaders. We've managed to actually get 4 tugs in this year, which is really great. But before we move on, I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal clan of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land, and pay my respects to the elders, both past and present. So first up, we have a bit of a recap from conference. I know that we have some seats, perhaps if Mark or Dave can help out with that as well. Anyone that attended Tableau conference in, where were we? Las Vegas. Why don't you come up? We'll hear a little bit about what happened at conference, even though it was in Vegas, and any news that's along the way as well.
Great.
I don't know.
Whoever
I
wants.
know that Craig was there, so you were there, I was there,
How's that?
Steve was there.
Wow.
Craig was there. We'll move some chairs across. See if we can bring it up to the front row.
Who else was there?
I was there. Ed was
Yeah,
there.
come on,
One of those. My spare chicken if you want it. The logo's sweet. Press the. Yeah, Alex on. We'll probably just switch on that too. You can start one with you.
Okay. I'll stand on the side.
And I'll chair because I didn't go. I did submit a paper to see if I could talk about it. But it was going to be on server management and so forth. But then Tableau went and released server management add-on, so they didn't want me to turn up. So I have to do it all for free. Fair enough. Show of hands. Who was sponsored by their company to go and didn't have to pay for it themselves? Where do you work and can I come work there? Let's start with that. Obviously, all your companies think, like I say, Tableau is an important enough investment. I'll see if I can find a good spot there, down there. A good investment to actually send you to Tableau conference. Do you have discussions with your managers about going to that and getting that sponsorship? Is that an easy task or a hard task? Anyway.
I'll start on this one. I actually, when I joined JLL, I asked them to negotiate differently. So I actually negotiated into my contract not to increase my salary in terms of their offer, but actually to include a number of different conference trips overseas each year, so that I could improve my knowledge around what was happening in the market and bring it back to the organisation. And I feel like that is a much better investment in my own career than me, having post-tax money where I self-fund. And I've self-funded probably, I think, 3 times to Tableau and several times to Social Inspire as well. So I recommend that if that's something that you want to do and invest in yourself, use it as a negotiation tool.
For me, I think the word Vegas is a bit of a hard sell. And sometimes I understand why. But the first time I went to a conference about 3 years ago, and then it's like 5 days, 4 days in college, so much people everywhere, and so much content to go through. So for me, I think the biggest thing was networking opportunities to meet some of the guys from different companies, and they are trying to scale up Tableau and how to do best practices. So I learned a lot. So I think that's kind of the business case that we can promote particularly use about what you can come out of that. So I went there as like partial funding. So I flew there using my own money for tickets with airlines. The Tableau conference tickets because we got a pretty big Tableau shopping on AG. So Tableau kind of had free tickets for us. And the accommodation was, I actually kind of paid for that.
For me, the boss made me go. So it's compulsory. Very easy. But look, it was a great chance to catch up with all the Data School UK folks. I think, geez, it would have been 20 or 30 it was there. Had almost like a reunion. So it's a good way to meet halfway around the world.
Okay, another quick hands up. Who was this first time Tableau conference for? All repeat visitors? All repeat visitors. Billy, they must like it, must have something going for it, so repeat visitors. What's the, what's the experience of traveling all that way, potentially being a bit daunting? So you might think back to your first time going, and going to Vegas, hundreds, well, maybe 100,000 people or so walking around all the different conferences. How do you find navigating that and just being in a place where it's very small but very easy to get lost? Maybe some of my own experience there.
So my first TC was 4 years ago in Boston, and I met maybe 5 people, and I just immersed myself in all the technical sessions all week, and followed the advice that no one says to do is don't go to every single session. I went to like every single session. And at the time they said every Tableau conference will be different. I didn't believe them, but this Tableau conference was completely different. The last year was completely different from the year before. So this year it felt like, we were all here in previous years, so we can all sort of meet up in various different things. Same thing as what we said before, it's the networking that you get. So you actually, anyone can go and watch the sessions online now. Go to YouTube, type in TC19, what you're interested in. Every session is on YouTube. So you sort of go, there's no point going. It's the behind the scenes networking, meeting people, just finding someone who might live on the other side of the world does exactly what you do, or you can pull that experience from. And then it turns into almost a school reunion where you just can't wait to go back to catch up with all those people again and have better conversations as well.
It's great.
Wait till it's wet. Is it?
Yeah.
All right.
So for me, it was pretty much the same experience. But last year was my very first Tableau conference, and I tried to cram every single session there. So my day was fully packed with sessions, and New Orleans, so all of us there remember, when New Orleans, it was about a mile walk from one session to the other, or from one side to the other. So running around trying to get everywhere. But this year was completely different experience. So last year I met a lot of people. It was great to catch up with the same people this year as well. Navigating in Vegas, it wasn't too bad because the hotel was quite close to the convention center. But again, it depends on what time of the night you're talking about going back to the hotel. So after 12 there, it wasn't really much, but yeah, it was great experience.
All right, I've heard people talking about networking. You've all been there for a number of years. How have you kept in contact, and has it been helpful when you're not at conference? And I'll hold you to it.
No. Just on Twitter, pretty much everyone, the president of the data community on Twitter is just massive. So everyone's there, everyone's active, everyone is happy to help. So whatever question that you have, you can reach out to whoever. It could be a Zen master, or it could be someone who's just starting, and you can reach out. You are quite nice, they're happy to help, and they're happy to invest some quality time to help you.
Yeah, I think for me as well, recorded sessions are excellent because the first time you go, you try and cram so much in, and there is so much content that you can't possibly see everything. The advantage of that is there's something for everyone. So you want to go to technical sessions, or you want to look at, client stories in terms of what they've been doing with Tableau and get ideas that you can really get back. Or indeed, if you can't attend, you can go and watch all those sessions, the ones that you missed or didn't have time to attend, and then stay in touch with that community as well. You meet people when you're out there that you only ever see again at the next TC. So staying in touch with them. Social media, WhatsApp groups, etc., and be able to just ping ideas off of people or replay ideas that they've talked you through. So I think that's invaluable.
A little bit less about how we network and how great Vegas was, but what was the most interesting new feature that's coming out that you got excited about?
We watched the keynote. So question to the audience, sorry, I'll twist it around. Who in the audience has watched the keynote live or watched the keynote since? Oh, okay.
I have some long
So when you actually go home tonight and pull up on YouTube and watch it, you obviously answer it.
For me, I think the new data modeling piece coming along is quite exciting. It really does give you the power to grab data from whatever tables you like in your data network without creating joins that create duplicates. And if anyone has ever done blending secondary data sources and experienced all the problems that can occur with a blend, this is a really, really good new feature that's going to change the game, give you that extra ability to pull data in from all sorts of different places into one data source.
I agree. I mean, that's kind of one of that's sort of behind the scenes and so unsexy, but it's going to make the server environment hum and things run much, much better because there's less duplication of data coming through. But one of my favourites was actually metrics. And the reason why metrics is great, if you don't know what metrics is, it kind of looks like little square boxes with big ass numbers and a spark line as well in that. But it's really, really tidy and it's simple to create and will really make a difference as you're starting to customise what are the things that are important to each individual. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Did you learn some things about maybe some existing or newly released features on how to use them better? We know this year came out Ask Data, Explain Data, a couple of these big things that were announced last year's PC. Any great experiences on people being sharing how to use them better?
Yeah, certainly. I saw a really interesting dashboard where somebody had actually embedded Ask Data right within a dashboard. So the ability to ask questions of the data in the context of the data in that visualization, I think that looked great, and it was a really innovative way of actually using Ask Data rather than just being a separate search component.
For me, Explain Data. I went to a session, Bethany Lyons. If you get a chance to
to drop into the website and replay some of the sessions. This is really a good one to replay for yourself. Bethany Lyons, she's such a real passionate advocate of everything Tableau, really presents really well. And what she did was took you through a whole scenario for an hour on a use case to explain data. She had a web stats from Department of Census, I think, and she was looking at an outlier in Utah for divorce rates. And she went through and explained data. She nested explained data. She pulled up and explained data. She suggested a few reasons. She put it out to a worksheet. She did explain data again, dove deeper and deeper. So it's like drill through explain data scenario that I thought was really, really valuable, and encourage you to have a watch.
Questions from the audience? Put your hand up, I'll run up to you with the microphone. You can think about it while we ask the next question. If you put your hand up, we'll come back to you. So for a while speaking, I wasn't thinking of my own question.
What was the highlight of conference for you?
I think it's got to be IronVis for me. It's just amazing the speed that these guys actually put together these dashboards, and it just produces new ideas in terms of the way that they're using Tableau. And you know, just some of the examples of the storytelling around the dashboards that they used, which when they're building it, you don't actually see that story come together until they talk you through that right at the end in terms of the reason why they've designed that visualization the way that they've designed it. I think it's fantastic.
And obviously the beauty of IronVis is they do it in 20 minutes, so they've got some time to prep, but they walk in with a blank canvas. They've got to know the data set, and everything they do is right there on the big screen in less than 20 minutes. And this year, the guy who finished last finished with about 3 seconds left on the clock. So they used the full 20 minutes to try and get everything done before the judging happened. So yeah, I was sort of hesitating on that because it's either IronVis or devs on stage. It's hard to pick between the two. And then obviously a very close second is the only keynote as well, where they go through all the features and stuff like that. So all 3 sessions were worth watching.
Yeah, for me, it was devs on stage. So if you don't know what that means, the developers of Tableau actually get up on stage and present some of the features that they and their team have developed over the last couple of years. It's really cheesy. It's highly scripted. And there's some very awful jokes, but it's well worth a look too if you want to watch the replays.
Okay, one last question. What would you avoid?
At conference this year, Tableau announced their first ambassador, and he actually lives in Sydney. So Dimitri you may have met him. He's previously worked at CBA. He's a consultant for Cornerstone. He has a habit of leading people astray. So the one thing that I recommend avoiding at conference is the ambassador Dimitri.
I would double that. Just cramming sessions. I think the point is not to cram all of the sessions, because all of the sessions are recorded and you can watch them later on. It's more about connecting with people.
Thanks, everybody. We'll let you go back to your seats and we'll.
Next presentation is from an organisation called Policy Cures Research. They're a what they term as a Tableau Foundation organisation. So they're a non-for-profit. They actually qualify for a free Tableau license. And the whole point of them being here is to try and recruit some of you into Tableau Service Corps, which is volunteering your time to non-profits around the world, but obviously focused in Sydney, which is why we're here and not there. So I'll let Anna sort of run through. But just take a minute to sort of see how you can help these guys. They'll be at some stage, maybe at drinks, but politely asking for volunteers to help them with their Tableau work. That's all part of what Tableau Foundation does. More information, either Tableau Foundation website, applying for Tableau Service Corps, or come talk to me or them anytime. Yep, you're going to sit in the front row? Yeah. So Anna will do the presentation. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris, and thank you everybody for having me. So my name's Anna Duval. I work at Policy Cures Research. Policy Cures Research is a not-for-profit think tank. And think tank is kind of a difficult word and it just sounds a bit wankerish. So to explain who we are, I work with two doctors, like medical doctors, a guy who's got a PhD in health economics, Dr. Amelia Harden down here, who's a scientist. We have, who else we have? A couple of juniors who have got international relations degrees, things like that. So it's a really diverse group of people. What our intent is to understand how much money is invested in research for neglected diseases. So the first question is, what are neglected diseases? These are diseases that primarily affect people in developing countries. And we look specifically at diseases where there are missing products. So for example, we're looking at malaria, and we really need a malaria vaccine. We're looking at diarrheal diseases, worms, leprosy, meningitis, tuberculosis. So these are diseases that have a really big impact on populations in developing countries. And where there aren't diagnostics, there are no drugs, there are no vaccines, and there really needs to be research to create these products. Problem is that there's no commercial incentive for pharmaceutical companies to invest because the people who get the diseases don't have any money, so there's no revenue there. So the money usually comes from governments and also from organisations like the Gates Foundation. And to give the pharmaceutical companies some credit, they are actually pretty big contributors, but there's never going to be enough industry investment to actually solve these problems. So what we do is a survey every year where we go out and ask all of these organisations, and there aren't all that many, to be honest. We get about 250 responses, and it's kind of sad because those are all the organisations that are funding in these areas. And we ask them, what projects did you support? And they give us line-by-line data of, I gave $10,000 to this university who sponsored a PhD student to look at basic research for tuberculosis. And so each year we get about 10,000 lines of data in those sort of columns, and we put it all into our database and we analyse it and write a report about it. Amelia can hold up the report. So that's like 150 pages of explaining what's going on in so many years. That describes what's going on in global funding for neglected diseases for that year. The other way that the data is used is to hold governments accountable. So, as I said, we're just a think tank in Surrey Hills. We've got about 14, 15 people. And yet the World Health Organization, the G7, the G20, they say, the governing bodies say, okay, we know that investing in research for neglected diseases is really important, and we want governments to do that, and we want to keep track of how those governments are doing. So all you governments, please report your data to Policy Cures Research here in Surrey Hills. So these are like executive statements from the WHO saying, yeah, you guys talk to Policy Cures Research, which is crazy because, as I say, we're 15 people and we're like, okay, yeah, just give us your data. And we're then responsible for analysing it and making sure that it is digestible and everybody knows what's going on. The report is also used by advocacy organisations who can then use the data to go to their governments and say, hey, tuberculosis is still an issue. Can you increase your research funding to tuberculosis? It's used by governments who want to make strategic decisions in where they fund. Apparently Bill Gates carries it around like the Bible. He's a big, we're funded by the Gates Foundation and have been for 12 years. So it's a really unique resource. That is one of our products. So I'm putting that under evidence here. We've identified the R&D gap, so we're saying, okay, we know that tuberculosis, HIV amongst children is still an issue, diarrheal diseases, blah, blah, blah. And then we collect the data. And GFinder gives us how much money is invested in research. We then analyse it. Now, the other part of the data set that we collate, and one that I'd like to speak to you mostly about today, is the pipeline. When you are developing products, say a vaccine for malaria, you have to go through different clinical trials. So you're starting off, you test the vaccine amongst healthy people to make sure that it doesn't make them sick, just a few. And then you go into sick, well, not vaccines, but say it's drugs. You go into sick people and you say, okay, is this actually working? And then you go into phase 3 and you see how effective it is. If you have a look at that pipeline over time, you can actually see, like, you might have 16 malaria drug candidates in phase 1, you might have 10 in phase 2, and you might have 8 in phase 3. And it helps regulators and funders understand if they can look at this pipeline and say, okay, in the next few years, I expect to see a few more products coming through the pipeline and needing to be approved by the regulatory authorities, needing to be funded for expensive phase 3 clinical trials. So the work that we do is to review, and this is just desk-based research, where we look at, okay, can we figure out all of the products that are in the neglected disease pipeline? So that is, again, a unique resource. It's the first time that anybody's really combined the different data sources of all of the developers in WHO. So those are our two data collection sort of methodologies. We then look at how we visualize this data. For the GFinder data, so again, this is how much money is going to R&D funding. We're actually in the process of developing a data portal. So that's been in the process for a few months and will be released in January. But for pipeline, we've been using Tableau, and this is with the donation from the Tableau Foundation, is to give a visualization of the pipeline. This is what the GFinder data portal will look like. You know, there'll be a few edits, but that's the vague idea. And this is what the pipeline Tableau visualization looks like. So we've got all of the diseases, and then you can say how many products are in development for each of those diseases, or you can sort it by products and complexity. The other area that we look at, and this is a really useful resource, but I don't think that we display it particularly well, is saying who are the developers for each of these different products, which is, this is really handy to know. So what are our challenges? As Chris said, we are a not-for-profit, and we would greatly receive your time and assistance with these things, any of these things. So we think that the GFinder portal is going to look amazing. We think that the pipeline visualization is still a little bit old and clunky and not really doing as much as it could. We've done this in-house. One of my analysts, he's been a doctor with Doctors Without Borders for 20 years. He's worked in Yemen, Sri Lanka, Rwanda, Sudan, like he's been all over the place. His training's not in data, and he's done a great job, but this is not his specialty. So he was wondering if there might be advanced features like the JavaScript API in Tableau dashboard that could be used to improve the visualization. That's one ask. The second ask is, having developed the GFinder portal, we realise that we look at data in a particular way, and we look at it in time series data. But in fact, people want to look at it in a whole lot of different ways. So I've kind of got to the end of designing the data portal and then gone, gosh, we could have been a lot more flexible with this. And we kind of want to open up a little bit of a data playground for people to go, look, we've got all of this data, what can you do with it? And all of the data we release freely. So that's the second thing that we think that we might be able to get help with. And then the third is advice on the structure of the pipeline data. So I'm like an Excel nerd, love Excel. I used to be called Excel Duvel, but it's Excel Duvel. But I don't think that is the most appropriate forum for the database, for the pipeline database. Amelia has been trying to review all 700 products, and you go through, different stages of review. I mean, what we really want to be able to do, ideally what you do, is you can say, here's the pipeline in 2015, here's the pipeline in 2017, and here it is in 19, which would just show such a beautiful picture of success, because there has been funding into neglected disease R&D, which you can see from GFinder. And you can just see the pipeline move along, move closer to registration, which is super exciting, a great advocacy story. But that's not possible by just using our Excel basic understanding. So those are our three requests. If anybody has time that they would like to donate to us, we would gladly speak to you. I'll be here for drinks. You can't get me to leave drinks, so that's quite easy for me. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah?
I have an offer for you instead of a question.
Yes.
PK from the Dove School and MIT.
Yeah.
The Dove School runs a weekly client project, and you bring some data along.
Okay.
Out of our consultants will munge it, cleanse it, and do some visualizations. You get the work product at the end of the week. They get real world data. You guys get real things. So
that sounds
come talk to Craig after this.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And just to give you an idea, before I get off the stage, I find it a lot easier to understand this if you can actually see the data. So I've got, to give you some idea, and I think that this was one of our struggles is with the pipeline data, it's a lot of text. And we don't quite understand how Tableau can deal with text more than, I know it's really great at numbers, but we're struggling with that. So that's the pipeline data. And this is what our GFinder data looks like. And so it's really based on financial value. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to speaking to you over drinks.
Okay, everyone, so you're ready for our tiny Tableau talks. Let's see whether or not these speakers can actually keep themselves to being tiny, or whether or not they want to be a little bigger. Maybe it's just me that's the tiny one on the stage along the way. So let me see, I have some abstract information here.
Can you guys actually?
Yeah, just going to say one thing. So they're here to talk about Tableau and how to do things in Tableau. If they start trying to sell that particular item, you start throwing things at them.
Well, thank you very much, Dave. That's appreciated.
I'll just do a quick intro here. You can switch computers across, or are you?
I'm going to use that one for the presentation and put that one message.
Okay, all right. So first up, we have Philippe Gregor. Is that how you pronounce it?
Exactly, that's correct. It's Philippe Gregor on track. So
there we go. And he's the Customer Success Manager of Diligence. So what Dave was alluding to before is we have a number of consultants coming to present today, and usually we try and get customers to come along and present, although the customers are very quiet and don't like to present so much and pretend that being an introvert is the reason for it.
There are many introverts out there that actually speak, and if you follow me on Twitter, you would have seen a great Twitter thread from Dr. Jason Fox, who happened to present at one of the most recent Sydney Day-to-Day Arts. Anyway, enough about that, because I will come and hunt you all down. Philippe is here to talk to us today about extending your Tableau dashboard functionality with Tableau extensions. And while relatively new to the Tableau ecosystem, Philippe actually enjoys working with data in visual ways. His combination of both consulting and marketing background helped him immediately see the benefits Tableau can bring to both internal and external audiences alike. So what I'll let you do is, because I don't want to take up too much time with the introductions today, I'll pass it over to you and you can explain what you're talking about.
Thank you very much. Just before I begin, do you guys hear me well? Is it fine display? Awesome, thank you. Thank you very much once again for the introduction. My name is Philip. I work as a customer success manager for Collision's data consultancy company with a global footprint that is headquartered here in Sydney. So much for the sales pitch. What I'm here to talk about today are Tableau extensions. So just a quick show of hands. Who of you have heard about Tableau extensions before, please? Okay, I would say that's 1.5. Who of you have used any of the extensions that are available? That's 5. And who of you is potentially a Tableau extensions developer? 1.5, 2. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So, what are Tableau extensions? Tableau extensions are third-party applications. By the way, that's not a designer. Okay. Tableau extensions are third-party applications that reside within dashboards and that provide you with additional functionality that you can use within the dashboard. I guess the important bit is that they sit within the dashboard. They bring some new functionality that is not available as a standard within Tableau. Oh, lovely. That's me again. So my name is Philip. Hi. Sorry about that. I have no idea. I see. Oh, yes. Okay. So let me just quickly. I think there is a timer set. Exactly. Apologies for that. So let me do this. See, that should do. They can be used within, no, that didn't do. Okay. Yes. So we'll go the old-fashioned way. Welcome to 2019. I don't know, but it might be possible I've used a template that actually had a timer set. Let's see if this will do. I think this will do. I'm positive. And so we'll do without that. Long story short, new functionality, they sit within the dashboard. They can be used in both in all Tableau desktop, online, and server. And why would you want to use them? Well, there are plenty of benefits to extensions, but for anyone, as an analyst, or literally anyone working with data and using Tableau, well, you know how difficult it might sometimes be when you are actually required to create a visualization, create a dashboard, work on a report. Why wouldn't you want your work to be easier, especially given you actually already know the environment that you work with or that you work in, right? Which would be Tableau. You might be thinking, well, but how do I need to prep the data? How do I actually make sure that I have the right format? Well, good extensions best practice is actually that they will provide you with information. How are you supposed to actually prepare the data in advance? We can actually go to the other slide. Thank you very much. And then here's just a couple of bullet points, basically with some of the benefits. But ideally, I guess the best case scenario, given we have very limited time for this, is what sort of functionality can you actually bring within Tableau? Well, it can be different types of forecasting or advanced types of analytics. It can actually be natural language generation. So you can generate stories that basically help you describe your visualizations. Or you can easily export all charts within Tableau into one single Excel workbook. And some other ones, Sankey diagram. For those of you who have actually worked and tried to create Sankey within Tableau, it's quite difficult, right? These are just some of the examples of the extensions that we've made. The reason being is simple. We have a lot of Tableau clients, we are a Tableau partner, and they sometimes reach out to us. Obviously, we talk a lot about what is it that they do in terms of business, how do they want to progress, and we listen to their feedback, and we also want to sort of add some value back into the Tableau ecosystem, which we really value. So we've created a couple of extensions, and let me just quickly, fingers crossed, if I can actually connect without any hiccups and issues, just show you how easy it is to use a Tableau extension and what it might look like. Thank you very much. Fingers crossed. Perfect. So that's one. Voila. So we didn't. Just a second. I'm still hopeful. No. It's funny. I had a presentation on the same topic on Monday, and I would be lying if I didn't tell you that I had some difficulties as well. But no, yes, let's try this one just in case. But I don't think that's going to be the issue, to be honest. Worst case scenario, when the session today is over, you can just, oh, voila. Okay, so the issue is in that. Don't go. Ooh. Okay, let me just reveal Tableau for you. It might just take some time. Anyways, so in the bottom part, what you see here is basically this is the extension, right? All you need to do is just sign in. So I've put my credentials in. Given yes, voila, that's perfect. So what I see here is basically this is the process analysis extension. As you can see, we have just some basic data from Jira, formatted above, and you can see in a very sort of, I would say, easy way, as soon as I just move the bits around the screen, how you can analyze a process, right? And you can see the flows, you can see the leakages, you can see the sort of paths that are important for you, and that can, in certain cases, show you how many customers actually through your network or across your channels. In this case, we're looking at Jira tickets and how do they progress from the backlog stage into the testing and done stage altogether. But if I'm gonna switch to another one, which voila, you see, I didn't lie, it works. Here's another example, shopping analysis. So you would be using, typically imagine you're on Amazon or anywhere else. So you search for products, you look up an item, you add it to cart, eventually you get back to search so that you can have a look, at some other items, or you want to see your shopping cart to sort of double check where you have everything, you start processing the order, etc., etc. The beauty of this is that this is the very basic version, and obviously there is a lot of customization that can be done. We can talk colors, we can actually talk unlimited data points sort of, so you can have many more. This is a very simple process, obviously, but I think you get the idea. And the same, at the end of the day, applies to, for example, the Sankey chart. So I can just update it so that I can recite it for the screen. Not sure what it's going to do with the, so obviously. The fact that I'm actually using it on a big screen didn't help. Anyways, I guess what I wanted to say, and for me to conclude, extensions are awesome. You should start using them. Extensions are secure. We didn't touch on this subject very much, but are basically two ways how you can have, sort of safeguard way how to use extensions. The first one is basically whitelisting the extensions that can be used. Admin can actually do that. Or the other option with the latest release of Tableau, we talked about so-called sandbox extensions, which will reside within a dedicated Tableau hosted environment, and they cannot make any network calls. Because even when you actually, review the code of an extension that reaches out to a third-party server, when you have a binding agreement in place, when you eventually do the research and analysis on that extension developers, sort of best practices and security, every single time the extension reaches out to the external network, the code on the other side might change, which potentially, poses a security threat. So with Tableau extensions in the sandbox version, it will be introduced in Q1 2020. you literally have nothing to worry about when you start using them to speed up any of your work. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much for presenting and going all the way through those bumpy rides with actually presenting. You did a great job there and kept it going smoothly. So up next we have, oh gee, how am I going to pronounce your surname? We've got Jasna? 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 Dyslexia? I had no chance, but thank you. So she's a data analytics consultant at the data school down under, who aims to create a peaceful harmony between the analytical mindset and the artistic world. She learned data analysis through the data school. Good on you, Craig. Studied psychology, loved maths, and enjoyed photography and painting for a little while. Yet she's spent a sixth of her lifespan on people development and recruitment. There's an interesting stat for you. So today she is talking about, in a world full of the sameness, dare to be different. Yeah, the day of old school CVs ceased to exist. So over to you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jasna, and today I'm going to talk about the journey of my resume and how it became interactive through using Tableau. This is my very first resume created when I was finishing high school, and it's quite an embarrassing one, but it was a beginning. After that, there were many different static versions of my resume until I finally learned something about data analytics. As part of the training in the data school, we were asked to create interactive Tableau resume. This is the first version that I did. But after I gained some experience and I was placed with my first client, I realized that it was about time to revamp my resume. So I felt more confident with Tableau, and that's how I approached this resume. I think it was, the idea was to present not just my experience, but also to showcase my data visualization skills. So how I approached this step by step. First, I started with a well-written resume, because at the end, it's all about the content that you're providing. Then there was some data preparation and shaping the data in a way that it's friendly for Tableau to use. Of course, there is some inspiration, getting inspiration from the internet or wherever you want, and sketching some ideas, creating some Tableau ideas, working with Tableau, and at the end, asking for feedback and reiterating. I'm going to skip the first part because the idea of this presentation is not to tell you how to create how to write a good resume. So I'm going to go straight to the data preparation. For this part, I used just a simple Excel spreadsheet, and I took all of my experience, shaped it into an Excel spreadsheet with columns and rows. And if you want more details on how you can do this, you can have a chat afterwards. Then the second part was to get inspired and to start sketching. For me, the sketching part started long before I even knew about Tableau. So I drew this messy image here, and it looked a lot better in my mind. And the idea was to create a timeline of bubbles that will represent my experience. But back then, I didn't have the skills, so I put that picture aside and I used this when I had some Tableau experience. In terms of getting inspired, I think the Tableau Interactive Resume Gallery is a great place to start with. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend to go to it. So once I got into Tableau, I thought everything is going to go smoothly. But of course, there are some setbacks. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you what were the setbacks and how I managed to overcome those. So the idea was to create a timeline with bubbles where one bubble is one experience and the size of the bubble represents the length of the experience. And the first few steps were very straightforward and very simple. I put the data on the x-axis, organizational details. For the positioning of the bubbles, I used the midpoint for each experience. And for the size of the bubbles, actually, I calculated them with calculating the diameter or the difference between the starting and the end point of each experience. But there was an issue with this one because, as you can see, it looks like I had so many gaps in my experience, which is not reflecting the reality. And when I was going into the technical things, I realized that Tableau was complaining about mixing dates and integers, as well as it was complaining about the formula that I was using for the bubble size. So instead of using the diameter, I realized that the better approach would be to use the area of the bubble, the whole bubble. And that's how I managed to create those bubbles to not overlap or to not be spread apart. And the second tip that I learned was that using a supplementary table where I have all the dates and corresponding integer for each date would fix the issue that I had with mixing dates and integers. And voila, that's how I got my second interactive resume. So to sum it up, it all starts with a well-written resume, and preparing and shaping the data, getting inspired, tableauing, asking for feedback, and then reiterate. Thank you very much.
Radio. Up next we have Thomas, who's a principal consultant at RXP. I can just flip this across the next one, thank you. So Thomas is originally a financial analyst.
That's correct.
And a few years ago, he decided to take his passion for automation and self-service to the next level. Yeah, and explore the world of data and analytics. He's grateful for technologies such as Tableau, and what they've given him in terms of ways to express his creativity, along with a wealth of development opportunities.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. I think you wrote it. So Thomas is going to talk to us today about mentorship in data and analytics, and the why and the how. Thank you.
Thank you. I am one of the greatest mentors of all time. And yet, you carry me in your backpack. Now, the question is, who are you? Any ideas, anyone? No? Our time is limited today, unfortunately, so I'm going to give you the answer. You are Luke Skywalker, of course, I am Master Yoda. Now, the point of this is that mentors come in all shapes and sizes. In fact, over the weekend, I discovered there is now such a thing as a baby Yoda. It's pretty cute. Have you seen him? Oh, I'm not sure. Is baby Yoda a mentor? I'm not sure, but we should actually find out. So what exactly is a mentor? A mentor can be a teacher, right? Someone who helps you grow your skills and your knowledge. But a mentor can also be more of a trainer, someone who will help you reach your potential. A mentor can be that person who can give you magically an extra bit of confidence when you need it. Someone who inspires you. Someone who can stop you from making mistakes because he has made them before you. That's someone who can change the way you look at the world around you and make you see new opportunities. It could be just someone you can bounce ideas with. Someone you can have an honest conversation about your future. Or finally, someone that can help you expand your network. Having a mentor can have a tremendous positive impact on your career. But what does it involve for the mentee? Well, the mentee should be willing to learn and grow. The mentee should also be ready for self-introspection. In fact, one of the first things that a mentee should think about is, what are my strengths? And the reason for that is because those strengths is pretty much what the mentee will bring to the relationship with his mentor. And finally, a mentee should be ready to do some work and have a decent level of commitment, although it might not get as rough as this. Now, how to find a mentor? You might be thinking, my manager should be my mentor. If that's the case, I would say I'm really happy for you, but not everyone has with their mentor that special bond, like this guy does. So if that's not the case, what do you do? How do you find that amazing mentor who is waiting for you somewhere? Well, I'm very pleased to announce today that there is now a place for data analytics people to find a mentor. It's called the Sydney Data Mentors Group, and it's hosted on meetup.com. If you don't know what meetup.com is, it's an online social platform that's free for its members. So all you have to do is jump online to meetup.com, search for the Sydney Data Mentors, and join us. We will be organizing regular events, and hopefully we'll be able to pair you up with a great mentor. Now, if you're not interested in finding a mentor, you might be interested to become one. So if that's the case, I would say, first of all, that's a great idea, because becoming a mentor is a great way to work on your leadership skills. It's also a great way to reflect on your own experience. And finally, it's also a great way to give back to the community. So if you want to become a mentor, we also have something for you. It's the Sydney Data Mentors Group. That's on meetup.com. So please join us. We will have our first event at the end of January next year. And it is very likely that David and I will be presenting. So I'm looking forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks very much, Thomas. It's exciting to hear there's some opportunities out there for mentors to get involved. Maybe not as scary as getting up in front of other type groups. Right, so next up we have, here we go, Laurent. I don't know, that's my best. Yes. So I only did French for 3 years at school, and you can tell how well it's done. So Laurent is from Aware Services, and today he's a certified Tableau developer who's worked on multiple projects, embedding Tableau Server into a variety of web portals. Hands up in the audience who's seen this happen before. Couple of people? Okay, good. Well, I'm glad that you have. And so today, Laurent is going to explain to us how to get started with Tableau Embedded.
All right, let's start. All right. I guess most of you are Tableau desktop users, and you must have published your workbooks on Tableau Server, Tableau Online, or Tableau Public, right? And well, you have an additional way to share your amazing work, which is embedding your visualization into a web page. So how do we do this? All right, cool. The first thing is to get the embed code from a published view. So I'll show you this amazing work from Isa, which is the last I Won This winner. And oops, I did not internet. Sorry.
There you go. Oh, not connected.
Perhaps say that Hish, this IFA's got is actually working for JLL at the moment, but he's a part of the data school. There's a couple of times in the room for that line.
Yes. Okay. Well, all right. So you all know visualization, and if you scroll down here, and here, there's a little share button right there. So what do you do? So it will generate some code for you and the link to a visualization. So what's this code here? This is exactly what you will have to use. Okay. Cool. So if you look at this code, that's pretty straightforward. Even if there's a lot of color here, don't be afraid. So that's basic HTML and JavaScript. So we have like three main components here. The first one is the host URL, which is here the public.tableau.com, and usually it will be your Tableau server address. And the second one is the name, which is basically the name of your workbook. And the last one is a reference to the JavaScript library, which is going to do the magic work for you in the background. So you don't have to understand this code, because basically you just have to copy and paste it. So you don't, if you don't want to look at it, no, just copy and paste, and that's it. So let's look at an example. It should be here. So I still have to prove that it's working right. And voila. So you have your header and with the visualization. And as you may do on the Tableau line, you can take it interact. Yeah, there's an intellectual issue here, but you can still work on it. All right. So the limitation here is if you want your web page to interact with the feeds, well, you can't do it here. So in this case, you have to reach out to your inner geek and do a bit of coding in JavaScript. So, all right. So the first step is to reference the JavaScript API file. So here, the project.com.au is usually replaced by your Tableau server address. The second step is to have a placeholder in your page to pull up the visualization. The first step is to write a bit of JavaScript to have this visualization loaded into your page. So here, let's click here. So here you can find your placeholder, the address of your workbook, and finally a bit of code to load it. And finally, you just have to call this function. And once you've done all this work, you can start integrating some interaction with your page and let's say a button. So we can see here, very simple code. So you just filter on the state, on California, and you're going to replace any existing filter. So here is an example. So everything here is driven by HTML button, pretty simple. So hopefully it will work, but Internet Explorer is not the best. Here it is. So just by the click of the button, you can load up a bit. And yes. And so here you will recognize a simple map based on the superstore from Tableau, right? So it's very simple. That's just the sales by state. So just with click of a button, you can filter on California. You can add, you can see that here, your filter is updated as well. You can add Colorado to your filter, with it. Finally, clear all your filters. Again, you can do some mark selections. So let's select New York, add Ohio and Indiana. You can as well remove some selection based on criteria. So here is any state with sales below 650K. And finally, here again, you can bring up the view data. Here. Data, right? And you can actually create some chain of action as well. So you'll see like a series of filtering and mark selection. And you may end up with a nice, smiley, creepy face. That's thanks to the Americans, right? So let's go back to implementation. All right. So to sum up, Embedded code, super fast implementation, but you can't interact with the web page. JavaScript, slightly longer implementation, but you can unleash your creativity. And you may have noticed I didn't talk about authentication. Well, there's a good reason for that is, which is the JavaScript API doesn't allow you to handle authentication. So what it means, if you integrate one of your Tableau server dashboard into a page, your user will be prompted with a login page, the Tableau login page, and well, you really want to avoid it because annoyed with the user which is annoyed is a lost user, basically. So keep in mind that this, after doing this implementation, your web application still need to manage the login process to Tableau. And here it is.
Thank you very much. That was really great. Okay, so up next, we have a very special speaker. And the reason why he's very special is because he's the one that's different to all the others. Fred's actually, he actually works for one of the Tableau customers directly and isn't working for one of the Tableau partners. So we really appreciate the fact that you've come up and speak and prove that it's possible to speak as a Tableau customer as well. So a little bit of an introduction about Fred. He's the Analytics and Insights Strategist at SAI Global. And over the course of his career, Fred has held a variety of roles that has allowed him to develop and focus his career in both business and data analytics. In his current role, Fred's main area of focus is to create impactful and actionable data-driven solutions to complex business issues. So let's welcome Fred to talk about how to analyze customer retention in Tableau.
Thanks for the introduction. So, let's see. Here it is. Oh. All right, so I'm going to look here. Talk to you. All right. Okay. And there you go. All right. So, customer retention analysis in Tableau. Technically, what's customer retention? Customer retention helps us to understand or answer the question which is how many of my users are still customers after a period of time.
So one example that comes from Google Analytics. So this is one of the built-in reports in Google Analytics, which is the customer return. And here it looks a bit daunting or intimidating, but basically it's doing two things. The very first thing that it's doing is grouping users within buckets based on their sign-up date, which we call the cohort. The second thing is calculating or measuring the retention all the time. So it's simply saying, after 1 week, how many of these users we signed up on a week X have returned, on week 2, how many of them have returned. So what's the main benefit and why we use it? Technically, it has two main aspects. First one is to compare two different cohorts. Now let's say you are in subscription business or you have a subscription for a model and you're a new service. And you want to see whether that service had an impact on your customers. So you would look at different cohorts and you start to compare cohorts prior to that service and compare it to the cohorts that had signed up after you rolled out the service. The second one is to track the long-term engagement and see what's the lifetime value of your customers. So now we're going to see how we build that all in Tableau. So this is our target. Okay, so this is the final list. This is what we're going to build in the next 5 minutes or so. So how are we going to do this? So the very first thing, we're going to use the good old Superstore data set. And what I did here, I just went and put customers and order dates on those. And here what we're looking at is we can see that number of customers, all of the customers, they have a number of orders that being ordered in different dates. So the very first thing that we want to do is start to create cohorts. And we can do that by using their first order date. So the way to do that, we can leverage the level of details feature in Tableau, and we can start to look at the customer first order date. And to do that, it's simply just type in fix customer date, and the way that I usually read it is for each customer. So here what we're saying, we're telling Tableau to go to each customer and give us the minimum order date. And this date will be one row. So the value that Tableau will return at this stage is one value for every single customer, and it will be duplicated across all of their records. So step number 2, what we need to do is to create those cohorts. So now we know when they signed up, the first time that they signed up. The next thing we want to do is to start to put them in a cohort. And the cohort, as we can see here, it's the way that we're doing it is by taking the date part of the first order date, and we're using first the year. So the date part function will return an integer. So in this case, for this order, for Aaron's order, it will return 2015, so which is the date, and which is the date of the year or the number of the year, and then we concatenating that with letter Q to reference the quarter, and then we're doing the same thing, taking the date part out of the quarter date part out of Thursday. So here what we can see that for Aaron, which made his first order in February 2015, is part of the cohort 2015 Q1. For customer 2, it's part of cohort 2015 Q2, which is great. So step 3. So now we have the cohort. We want to understand when those different orders that were met or how long we have retained those customers. So, well, if we look at the very first example, or what we can do is we can use the date diff function in Tableau, and we can reference quarter, and this function will actually just say that this is my first day, this is my last day, give me the delta between these two. And whatever you reference here, so you can put a month, a day, a week, a quarter. So here we're looking at the quarters, and here we're saying that for each one of these orders that we have here, calculate the difference in quarters between this order and that one. And here, as we can see, that for customer 1 had the first order, it was in Q0, which is the quarter when we acquired that customer. And the second order was in the same quarter, Q0,
but the third order was in Q11. So this customer went away for about 3 years and came back to buy another product from us. So that's great. So now we have our retention, we have our cohorts. This is everything that we need, so we can start to build our retention visualization. So in here now we have the cohorts, and so now we can put the cohorts on columns and retentions on rows. And we need to do what we need to do is to calculate how many customers that we've acquired in each one of these cohorts. And the way to do this is to ask Tableau to go to each one of these cohorts here, and then it counts, then it will look at this retention, and it will see this retention value, and it will see if it's the retention value Q0, which is the quarter when we acquire that customer, then it will give us that, then it will give us the customer. And then we wrap this if statement with an account distinct. So this will give us the number of customers who made their first order in that cohort for every single one of our customers. So if we put this acquired customer here, so we can see that in 2015 Q1, we had 121 new customers, Q2, we had 160, and so on. So now we have pretty much all of the clues to measure our retention rate. Now we still need the final step, which to give us those retention percentages. And the way to do that, we need to ask Tableau to go through each one of those retention quarters and calculate and count how many customers that came back, and which belong to these cohorts, and then go to the acquired number of customers and give us the percent of these customers who came back. So from here you can see that we're doing count distinct customer name, and we divide that by the number of acquired customers for each cohort. So Q0 is always going to be 100% because these two numbers should be equally the same. But in Q1, you will see that number will drop down. So here we have almost 17%. Here we have 23% who came back, and so on. So with that, now as you can see, it starts to look like something. The final step would be just a little bit of formatting. So we just need to add retention in color, turn on labels, and add the grand total here. So for the overall retention, so you can just do that simply from Tableau. And that's it. Here we have the customer analysis.
Sorry, you got my stuff here. We're going pretty well for time. I'm pretty impressed with how everything is.
That's okay. I'll introduce myself. Yeah. Thank you. Good evening to you all. Thank you to the leaders for having me here. So I'm the guy who's going to speak for the next 5 minutes approximately. That's about it. So just wanted to know how many people have just started with Tableau or wanting to learn Tableau. Cool, I feel. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So that we can help our fellow members and help them avoid the pitfalls that we faced while we initially. So yeah, this is kind of story of my life. So yeah, the first thought that every Tableau enthusiast is Tableau public. And honestly, sometimes it's more interesting than a Facebook timeline, which is mostly about people getting married, people going to honeymoon and coming back from honeymoon. So when I first saw business on Tableau, probably I just kind of felt like I could just do something that amazing for my organization or for my peers or for my colleagues. How cool would that be? So anybody related, anybody thought about, do you relate with this thought that, you know? So, okay, so I thought, okay, where to start off with? So I went on to make over Mondays, work out Wednesdays, learn some funky stuff, and then I showed it out to my managers and colleagues, and they were impressed. And that's how I got my first batch of Tableau users, and they really liked what they saw, and they really hated using it because it was clunky. It was good to look at, but there was something fundamentally wrong with that. And a great guy explains that the design is not about how it looks, it's about how it works. And that was the thing, that was the fundamental thing that I almost forgot. And I think most of us who are starting with Tableau, they spend hours and hours, we go overboard with the formatting, how the way it looks, but we have to understand how Tableau responds to the kind of data you're letting in, the kind of features that you're going to use with that, you know, whether to blend or not, whether to join or not, you've got to be very aware treating Tableau. So you might have seen there are too many articles, materials, online help and guides from Tableau Zen Masters or anybody on Tableau community to tell you how the tool actually works. So let's talk about how we should actually work along with the tool so that data telling story, our story is less complex and more fun to use. Yeah, so I'm going to start with what Uncle Ben has said once. With great power comes great responsibility. And the best thing about Tableau is it enables people to tell their own stories with so much of horsepower underneath that more often than not, we tend to break it when we're starting off with Tableau, right? Some stuff that doesn't work, and then we complain that, you know, Tableau isn't performing. So I break it according to A, B, C, D of how a newbie should approach the Tableau. Let's see what approach we should have. So as we discussed that it's not the design, it's not the looks of it, but how it works is should actually define your design. And the question to self is, who my audience is. So put that into perspective. If you watch any video on YouTube, or probably you want to buy a new shoe, you'll go online, but you won't buy it. Next time, if you go online, you would see suggestions, right? Based on the activities that you performed online, based on your interest. It's not like Google telling you, you're gonna, you know, change your taste in music. That's not gonna happen, that's bad. So we have to understand what the audience actually is looking to see and personalize the data, the story that we are building for the audience so that it's easy for them to understand what story you're telling. And does it have a beginning, mid, end, or just pieces of information stitched together? Okay, there is no color. That's one of the topics that I want to discuss, that go minimalist with color, but could be a problem. Really, there's no color. That's okay, because I'm using the colors that Tableau uses in the icons. So, I mean, Tableau does the science for you, man. It makes your work easy, it makes your stuff easy. So I was talking about the characters and elements of the story. It could be the feature that you want to use, whether to use that feature or not. What's the purpose that feature is going to solve, whether you want to use sets, parameters, calculations. So you really do have to understand how Tableau would respond to that. You know, you gotta treat it like your girlfriend or your wife, you know, you have to be careful what kind of responses you might get. Our husbands know because we tend to act like legacy tools. Yeah, so when you think of it, you have to visualize first before Tableau visualizes for you, because if you tend to break anything, you know who to blame. Yes, it's coming. It's not Tableau, it's me who did that. Right? Tableau did the blending, but my data was not up to the mark. So yeah, it broke. Speaking of break, we really have to break a story into multiple parts and work on each part at a time so that we know how the elements are getting together and if it's conveying any message, that was intended to convey, or it's just going to confuse the users. So yes, you have to be careful, because making sense is one of the most difficult things when you are creating a story. It's a different perspective, different individual will have different point of view, different way of seeing at the data. So you really have to think about that. And you always have to think how the data is coming to the Tableau. Again, Tableau responds to the way the data has come into it. You have to pre-prep your data and how you have balanced it. So there are some trade-offs. If you want to do a blending, there could be some trade-offs in the performance. If you want to have multiple sheets with simple visualizations, it could be much better performing dashboard than one sheet with a heavy visualization, like a cross-tab bar chart. I mean, that's something not to go for. Once you know what elements you're going to use, you have analyzed individually, you have broken into different components, comes the composition. So when you have done the right approach, when you have done the right breaking down of your story, then composition becomes really easy. The only thing is be monochromatic. Is it still monochromatic? Yeah, it is. Okay. Because see, when you're not focusing on colors, you're focusing on the message structure, and you are actually looking at the story, how it's shaping up. At the end, you can use the colors, and again, I would tell you, I really completely blindly trust the science which Tableau uses to choose colors for you. It's there because it wants to save your time. So until there is a specific requirement to use a specific color, go with the Tableau. It really wins. After you've composed your dashboards, it's looking really beautiful. It's got good interaction, good components. It's time to declutter. It's time to take unwanted elements out of it. Because no matter how many things you have put into your dashboard, there is always scope of taking things out which are not necessary. And the best way to go for that is continuous feedback from the users. So one of the things that Tableau enables you to go faster iterations, to do fast iterations, right? Focusing and communicating clearly is more important than building pretty charts. Yes, we have discussed about that, so that's redundant. And last point, try not to get stuck on final design, which you think is the final design. We all have gone through that phase because you know what happens after that. So you show it to your manager or you show it to your user, and when it started, it was something else, but now they want to see something else because they went to Tableau conference and they saw something amazing and they just want you to do the same. Yeah, that happens, and it really happened with me. So that's how you begin with Tableau. Don't get overwhelmed, don't get carried away by all those amazing visuals. Everything has to be personalized according to your style of storytelling. So stick to that, and Tableau is there to help you, and the community is awesome. Love it. That's about it. If it works, I'm happy that's going to be.
So thank you very much. We are up next. We've got about 10 minutes. I reckon we could do a quick chat on what people want, or yeah, or you want to leave it. Super excited up here with the Tableau leaders, I think.
My jet lag is kicking in.
I can help you with some
pictures. Anyway, I'll start talking because we figure. So we're thinking about talent user group, what we're going to do next year. Obviously, we're trying to try a few things. Contact us, please contact us in any kind of way, but any way that you want to contribute. It's just like a 5-minute talk, something out there that's completely different that we've never done before. But we're also going to try a few things. One of the things we're looking to try and get going is more of a Makeover Monday is comp style. This is obviously a big part of this is you will need to bring laptops and Tableau installed and make sure you've got fully charged batteries. Our big challenge on the organising side is getting a venue and rooms. We've got to
couple of places we're asking about. Obviously, tables and chairs is much different to just chairs pointing at a venue. So we'll be working on that. Please contact us if you have any suggestions. A secret data set that you've used. We obviously we can avoid using something from Make Every Monday because then you know you probably will be cheating. So we're trying to avoid people who will cheat. Any ideas are very welcome. We are looking at other areas that are doing it, like Singapore has a very good Tableau user group, so we're going to steal as many ideas from them as possible.
So hands up, who just so we get a bit of a feel for who would be interested in doing a live Makeover Monday. What does that look like in this room? Would you come along? Because we're just trying to figure out like this sort of how many people would be interested based on the size of the rooms and everything else. Okay, so we could probably do a mini tug and have something with maybe 50 or 60 people, so we don't have to look at too much size coming through.
Yeah.
If it was around that number, we have
Right, good taking.
What other ideas do you got?
More of the same.
More of the same.
So, what do people think of the tiny talks? Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Good.
No, I don't see any thumbs down. I don't see any thumbs up. Would you consider doing one yourselves?
I'm going to resign from actually being the person that creates this, which means that I'm going to need to help these guys out. And I tend to push people into it more than anything.
Otherwise, I'll fall back on just me talking for 2 hours at every single one.
What's that?
Then I'll go to the bar by myself and spend the whole budget. It could work.
Also, use something to use for us.
Yeah, that'd be good. What about we at the last Tableau? Who was at the last Tableau user group? How many repeat customers have we got? All right. So, yeah, totally. What's our customer retention like? We need to work out one of those businesses. So, who enjoyed the quiz out of the people that were attending last time? Was the quiz something that was good? Lukewarm-ish? Maybe a quiz.
I did, but it just managed to get straight away.
And we all know that. Oh, we've got an idea over here. So you're interested in Tableau server type.
Do you know any server people feed?
Dave, let me see. Yes, so hands up in the room who would be interested in attending for Tableau server. I know that, okay, so there's a few people actually. And is that, can you hands up if it's server administration or if it's actually getting more out of your server as a Tableau desktop user? Server administration? Performance? So performance on your dashboard so that your stakeholders, okay, all right, well, I think that you've got some cool stuff on that. So, yeah.
Does anybody play with Tableau beta or also just say there's Lou the Alpha's out there, normally a bit more about it, but if you've got a Tableau license, you can pretty much just sign up to Tableau beta programs and they just, I've never seen anybody be rejected from it. They just accept everybody. And they give you, you've got to have a paid license to sign up to it, but once you sign up to it, you go, oh yeah, and then they give you a whole set of keys that you can go home and just install Tableau server on your own system if you want to have an extra play and so forth. It'll be interesting to see people talk about doing that. Yeah, you know, it's so don't laugh after we run out of other ideas.
What about if we did something that is hands-on, but maybe we do something with the Tableau Foundation? So we do something that brings together some of the data, maybe from policy cures, and bring that in and see what we can do to actually help out on the fly and see what we can do as one of the sessions. Would be something people would be interested in? Yeah? Okay, that'd be cool. Yeah?
Yeah.
Sorry? Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, are there any other suggestions or ideas from the audience?
One thing that we didn't do earlier. I'd like to thank IAG for hosting. I have to look at that because I always get those letters backwards and my enunciation's terrible, so the numbers sound all the same. But thank you very much for letting us host. One of the things that's challenging for us is finding venues that isn't always just where I work, so I can only wrangle my work into it, but we don't want it to be like an event that's always hosted in one place, and then it starts to get that vibe. So thank you for allowing us to come here, and I know the pain that you probably went through getting everybody signed up to security and handing out badges and all that. Really appreciate it.
Thanks to designing as well, and IAG for helping out. So I know we're quite busy today, but thank you for all helping. Fantastic job.
Awesome, yeah. Just one thing that I would like to say. I know that many people would like to have these talks more often and more frequently, but as you can see by the number of hands that shoot up so fast, one thing, it's really difficult for us to actually get content because nobody's willing to get up on the stage. So if there are more volunteers, there could be potentially more talks as well. The other thing is, it is hard for us to actually find venues as well. We have to go out and we have to use our own network. So if you have any space at your organisation and you would be willing to host us, we would really, really appreciate that. Again, we do this all in our own time. We're not paid about it. We do this for the love of you and helping to share Tableau out to all of you. So any help that you can give us, you think that it's maybe minor, if you find something that really helps us out. So it would be great.
Thank you guys for showing up. If you know people who sign up and don't show up, could you give them a nudge and tell them, hey, maybe next time, if you're not thinking you're going, click the I might be turning up button, because it helps with numbers. Because when we have smaller venues, we kind of have to go, well, we don't want to be overcrowded because then we get in trouble with our hosts. So we try and balance that with how many people we think are going to show up. Lots of people registered were on the wait list because they registered after other people, but other people didn't show up. So.
And we are going to try and get a bit better with our comms on that.
Shake your body, you're your friend. You guys are good, you showed up.
Okay, so I think we can wind that up. If anyone's got any other ideas and they are too shy to speak in front of everyone, just come and see us while we're out in your dream.
Most of us are fairly easy to find. If you go to usergroups.tableau.com/Sydney, most of us have some kind of contact detail there. There's a button down the bottom which says contact us. I don't know where that goes at the moment. I tried it this morning. I haven't received an email, so we'll figure out that one out. But certainly, look at our details, you'll be able to find some other way of contacting us.
So it's wrap-up time. So it's 2019.4 is out now. Super exciting. Would anyone know what some of the, I remember there's one that is making people really happy that makes me very sad. If anyone can guess what that one is, something of your t-shirt, there we go, thank you. T-shirt for you. Someone else set it down here.
There's a cross-site scripting bug fix. Yeah.
Anything else that really excites people on that list? No?
Webhooks.
Oh yeah, that's for the developers. Special people. All right. Our favourite part, if we're actually looking for jobs, close your eyes if you're a manager and you've got people. So first up, who's actually hiring in this room? Who's got some jobs that are available in their team? So everyone, if you see, like you might want to stand up, turn around if you're at the front, so people at the back can actually see who you are. Thank you. I also have, there we go, we've got a couple of the consulting firms coming on. Tableau. We also have, one of the recruiters reached out to me today. He's hiring a couple of senior Tableau developers for a COE. I don't know which COE, I don't know which company, but Morgan, there's his phone number. Suggest you take a photo if you're interested and get in contact with him.
I can field questions if it doesn't take long.
Pardon?
I can field questions.
questions on that drink?
On Morgan,
You got questions about Morgan's role? Talk to me.
talk to you.
Okay.
So Chris actually knows what roles Morgan's actually hiring for, or who he's hiring for. He just obviously wanted to get me to do the administration. Pretty lazy, Chris. See how you play this out. And finally, if Sandra, well, I don't know if you were looking at, there's specific people looking for roles that would like to put their hands up as well. Be a bit tricky. Yeah, okay, we'll leave that for you to approach the other people. Great. All right, last up. Are you our next Sydney Tug speaker? Who can I see out there who I am going to approach at drinks this evening? Yes, I am coming to drinks and I will be around and I will be looking for email addresses. If you want to only do a short talk, even if we're not doing full Tableau talks, I'm happy for that as well. If you're interested in tip battles, but you don't know someone else to do it with, I can find you someone. Just help me, just speak, please. Make sure that it's not me up here doing all the talking all the time.
And is there a particular feature you want to hear about, but you don't know anything about it to talk on? Let us know that particular feature, and we'll find someone to talk on it. All goes bad, I'll stand up here and do a boring talk on it.
Yeah, one thing that I can ask you, this is really a teaching's going to be, but one thing I can ask you, so I run design thinking at JLL. So at JLL, we're focused on putting humans at the centre of all the design that we do to make sure that we don't get that list of 100 metrics, but we actually get a real true understanding of the problems that our people are trying to solve. So if you're interested, I could also run a tug that's a little different, but could help you work with another person who is actually analytically minded to start structuring out what your problem statements are and potentially sketching out solutions. And you can do this with relatively little knowledge of the data that's needed to put it together. So if you're interested in that, is anyone interested in that? Okay, all right, maybe a smaller tug session that I can do along the way, or a meetup somewhere. I could definitely host one of those. Yeah, cool. All right, beer time. We have shirts. Thank you. We have shirts for all the presenters. Please go and see Mark. He will help you out with that.
There's some stickers there. I've been trying for years to get rid of them all. Please take some.
I might grab one for mine. All right, so we're off to Avenue on Sussex. The event's under the Sydney Tableau user group under the name of Margarita, who's obviously organised it. But she's not here. Woo! Great work, everyone. Thanks to our speakers. Really appreciate it. And thanks for coming along. Again, thanks to IOG for hosting us.
As you leave through the foyer, just for your passes, there's a little box on the left